When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world.
I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings! Ho ho ho! You're watching SeptumSin versus the World. I'm SeptumSin. I'm here with Kotobuki Jake.
Cheers.
And we're here to help you get your, well, Christmas on. I almost said get your jolly on. That probably wouldn't be it.
Gentlemen, Ciccolini here may talk like an idiot and look like an idiot, but don't let that fool you. He really is an idiot.
Appropriate. Some of these, maybe.
Yeah, for kids.
Yes, for kids.
You know, for kids.
But normally, around this time of year, people are looking for those Christmas classics that they all know and love.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, we have quite a few that we like to watch every year.
Or try to.
So, here is a list of great Christmas classics.
Sun fading, sky gazing, stars are the jewels of the night, hidden behind a horizon, into the moonlight, into the moonlight. We were chosen, hearts are frozen. We were chosen, hearts are frozen. In time, in time, in time, in time.
So now that you've seen those, why don't we get to the real meat of the list?
So you did a little slideshow, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, basically the idea is, you get the list of, like, these are what you should watch during the holidays. These are what you should watch during the holidays. That's more along the lines of Die Hard, that kind of thing. But we wanted, and of course we decided that Die Hard is odd enough that it could make the list. But we wanted to do stuff that not everyone would think about, either because it's more obscure or it's just hasn't gotten the love it should have gotten, or it's just plain weird, or maybe it takes place on Christmas but has nothing to do with Christmas, or what have you.
These are the films on the road less traveled.
Yes.
These are the films that you would have, that you might watch, but you might not watch during the Christmas holidays.
Mm-hmm.
These are films that you probably don't know anything about.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
Oh, I am enjoying this scene.
Get on with it!
Mm-hmm. And for this, we basically went with films and specials.
Mm-hmm.
We did not go with Christmas episodes. There's a lot of great episodes and good episodes. Technically, most of the Downton Abbey specials took place at Christmas. There's a wonderful Ramo and Half Christmas episode. There's some great Frasier episodes, at least one for Cheers, a whole bunch for Home Improvement. The Family Guy episode was really good, actually.
Once Upon a Weinstein. No, that's not it.
No, I'm thinking I think it's Have a Merry Freaking Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, you got the Futurama ones with Robot Santa. There's some good stuff out there, but we wanted to stick to the individual programs that,
might be a good idea for a list next year.
Yeah, might be.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Might be.
So I guess let's start off with number 15.
Yes, hand it to me. And a caveat, some of these you may debate whether they should be on the list or shouldn't. This one is, I think it's not exactly mainstream, but it's a lot of fun. And this is Bad Santa. It was a Terry Zwigoff film, his follow-up to Ghost World, and his second fictional film. And, of course, it stars Billy Bob Thornton as a very bad mall Santa, and Tony Cox as his pint-sized companion. And they have a racket going on where they case malls as Santa and an elf, and then rob them afterwards. And Lauren Graham plays a bored housewife who has a thing with Santa. And the late Bernie Mac plays a mall security expert who is on to them. And the guy, I believe plays the administrator of the mall. It was one of the last live action roles for John Ritter. So between Ritter and Mac having both passed since,
I was going to say those were late roles.
Very late for both of them. So there's a little bit of a morbidity to it now, but it's a fun movie. It's a movie that Coen's actually considered and then passed on. And I think they're on board. Yeah, they were executive producers.
Actually, I could easily see them directing this film. And they probably would have done a better job, but it would have probably been a lot more depressing.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture, to torture, to torture, to torture.
And Zwigoff is not exactly peaches and cream. He is definitely not uplifting. But this is a fun movie, and definitely for those of you who want a darker take on the holiday.
I'm going to be watching the sequel, which came out last year. I finally did get it cheap at Black Friday, and
I have not yet seen this.
And I'm going to be checking it out, and I don't know whether I'll be doing a review or not. I've got 2 already, and one of them is on this list. The other one was, I have to actually like these films to put them on the list. So, and that review has been filmed. More to come. But number 14. So a lot of these films do have something special for us, have a special meaning or a special special relation, and that's how a lot of Christmas classic films are. And I don't mean classic as in what we showed you prior. I mean classic as in your own personal Christmas classic.
Yeah, remember Alex? Remember? Hey, remember Ghostbusters? Oh, I remember.
These are films that we watch during the season that to you might not know about.
It may not even have anything to do with the season. It's just somehow entrenched in your brain as, kind of like the phenomenon where for some reason, even though The Sound of Music is really not a Christmas movie, My Favorite Things has become a Christmas song.
Inconceivable!
I have no idea.
I don't know.
It's that packages, right?
I guess.
To me, it just sounds like someone going to the postal service. It's like she's really happy that she goes to UPS.
Aren't you supposed to be?
So this is a film that really, really creeped me out as a child. This is in those manner of films back in those days, and this was actually done in, what was that year? I think it was done in the 80s. 70s or 80s.
I think if that's the one I'm thinking of, I think it was 79. Does that sound right?
Probably, because that goes with that era.
Because this was originally a Japanese film, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was 79.
And that is Nutcracker Fantasy. As you can see, actually, I need to see that. Even the cover looks creepy. You got this little girl walking down an alleyway. You got rats. You got this creepy old man in the background. Got some weird guy hanging from like the doorway. I mean, what the heck is going on here?
It screams Christmas.
It does, but you see, of course, it's about the Nutcracker, and that is Christmas.
Yeah.
Now, to me, as a kid, the thing that scared me the most is the opening. And this played on TV for a while. Again, because this really did bear a lot of similarities. And according to what I heard, the person who did this got a lot of their inspiration from the old ones like Rudolph and and sit in my lap, little boy. And
If you sit on my lap today, a kiss, a toy is the price you'll pay.
See, I grew up without having seen Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and the first time I saw it, he showed it to me, 6-7 years ago?
That's probably the first time I saw
As
it.
an adult, that movie is creepy.
Sit in my lap, little boy. I'll give you a present. But in reality, this film did have a lot of scariness to it. As a young child, it starts with a story of this crotchety old man who travels around with this sack, and you don't know what's in the sack, and he's called the Rag Man. And young little boys and girls who stay out past their bedtimes around Christmas time. The Ragman will come in and he'll see you, and he'll turn you into a rat and stuff you in the sack to feed to something somewhere. This is something that you see a lot in children's films today, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Well, Ragman is a DC character, and I could see a DC Christmas movie following along these lines.
But it was really creepy. And so it then cuts to this same little girl who's been told about this, going to stay with a relative who is a clockmaker. And
The Clock King.
She actually goes in and sees this nutcracker that she takes a liking to, so he gives that to her. And then late at night, she wakes up to find the evil Rat Queen has taken over. And her young prince, the Nutcracker, is there to try and save her. It is a creepy, LSD-filled nightmare.
I cannot swear to it. I've never seen that.
It used to play a lot in the
it
80s on TV.
I probably saw bits and pieces.
So, but recently, Discotheque under Eastern Star has released this on Blu-ray or DVD. To me, it was like old enough that I really didn't feel the need to do a Blu-ray release. Not paying $20 instead of $10. I'd rather pay the $10, so that I could get a hold of this and relive some of my memories. And it is just as creepy and strange as when I originally got a hold of it. All right. Speaking of creepy, number 13.
And don't curse us for putting the remake first.
Well, you see, to me, it actually works out to the best. Many people know the movie Black Christmas, or at least horror buffs know the movie Black Christmas, which does kind of make it an outsider.
And if you don't, watch last week's Inside Movies Galore discussion.
Yes, we did discuss it. It is considered one of the first true slasher films that follows that sort of formula that modern slasher films follow today.
Flasher films?
Yes, slasher films.
That's a different sort of genre altogether.
And now for something completely different.
Well, actually, the way he was talking probably would be a flasher. Well, to me, one that I feel is even lesser known than that when it comes to like people doing this as a classic is the remake, which is Black Xmas. Now, Black Xmas follows along a lot of the same tropes that the original did. Sorority girls, crazy guy, killing a bunch of them, that stalking them, killing them. Now, the difference between this one and the other is it kind of follows a couple of different things. One, it gives the killer more of a background. And in a way, it kind of mirrors the Rob Zombie Halloween in that sense, because he really tried to give Michael Myers a background story.
Although I will say this, I've seen this one once, and I thought it was okay. I saw part of the Michael Myers Rob Zombie, and I thought it sucked awfully. So this is probably the better of the two.
So, the other thing that it kind of mirrors the plot line that many say inspired the original Halloween, which the original creator of Black Christmas, which is funny that he's also the one who did Christmas Story. Another classic, by the way.
Yeah.
He had talked about what he would do as a sequel, which was a person escapes from a mental asylum and then, goes to attack these people. Just it's not during Christmas, and it's not, and it's not necessarily sororities. But they did the same thing. They followed this, except they decided we're going to combine those two concepts. At least that's how I believe they decided to do it, is they went and combined it, and ended up having a pretty interesting slasher film. And it had a very cool twist at the end. I really did enjoy the pacing in this a little bit better than Black Christmas, though I thought Black Christmas was better written. So,
speaking of combining things, what would have happened if with the original Black Christmas, that scene at the end where you see the eye through the door or whatever, and you hear Billy's creepy voice going, "You'll put your eye out, kid."
I do a little combination of all of the... Number 12. Well, this one is the last that I'm doing in a row. You have a couple in a row.
You might as well hand me the next one while you're...
Yeah, so you can sift through.
Yeah.
But be careful, it's a little bit delicate. This one is just another horror tale, and one that is a little harder to get. It's got a lot of out-of-print copies around, and they did do a newer re-release, but I'm wondering if that one's also out of print. And that is Jack Frost. And we ain't talking the Michael Keaton Jack Frost.
Oh.
It definitely would be an alteration on the cover there, wouldn't it? But this is a Jack Frost that is a horror movie. A very fun classic horror. A serial killer ends up getting mixed up with chemicals in the snow as he dies. And then he becomes this killer snowman with this powers to control cold and snow. This movie had two releases, this one and then the second one, which took place on a tropical island. I don't exactly know how that happened.
Olaf's Summer Adventure.
Yes. This is definitely not Olaf. I will give it that. It's very cheesy. I mean, you can see the pictures right here. I don't know if you got to see the movie, but this
Not
is
yet, no.
You can see he's kind of like this friendly snowman, and it's just, to me, it is cheesy good fun. It is one of those horror movies that's so bad it is good. And if you haven't seen it, you're doing yourself a favor if you check this out.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Great for the holidays, and definitely this one is a good Christmas watch.
I need to see that one of these days.
It
we've
is a
covered
fun
two
romp.
so far that I've not seen, and he's got two more coming up I've not seen. But this one is one I've seen many. Oh, number 11. I've seen this many a time. It's one of my more viewed anime. And for a lot of people, this would also be rather horrifying in a different sense, but for very different reasons. And we're slightly blurring the lines here of the rules. This is a separate standalone special, but it is part of the story of this series. But it's a series by Ken Akamatsu known as Love Hina. And the reason it may be horrifying is that it is infamously a harem series. And Ken Akamatsu has harem... He lets it get away from him sometimes. But there is one specifically called the Christmas movie, according to this. But I think it's officially called Silent Eve. And it is essentially an extended episode, what, about 45 minutes or
Yeah.
something. So it's a short film, basically. And it extends on the story, particularly between the two main characters, Naru Sagala and Keitaro Urashima. In Japan, Christmas is seen widely as a major date time. They do a lot. They do a lot with like Christmas trees and Santa and all
Kentucky
that
Fried
stuff.
Chicken.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, yes, I have heard this. But but it's a big date time, and the movie follows the premise that if you confess your feelings to someone on this day, and there's a really great insert song in the film where the lyrics are saying exactly that. The end theme also is one of my favorite from the entire series. It's called, I think it's called Shukufuku. If I'm remembering correctly. And it's just real fun, upbeat, jazzy. I really like it. I give the show probably more credit than a lot of people do. I've cooled on it as I've become more familiar with other anime and less a fan of harem than I used to be. But it still has some of my favorite characters. I still think it's a fairly romantic episode, all things considered. It does actually put some finality and help put a nail in the coffin of the idea that it's a harem. What's up? Oh yeah, Mutsumi is great. She's wonderful though. She's the turtle-brained character.
Just in case you didn't want to.
Yes.
You could see why some people might want to watch this.
Yes, exactly.
You know, for kids.
But I like Mutsumi. I played her once in a game that we did, and it was great. She was looking the other way for 3 rounds before. It was hilarious because oblivious. That's the feat is oblivious. But it's a fun show. Non-traditional. I think most American audiences wouldn't even think about popping in Love Hina for Christmas. Yeah, and it is one of the few anime that has a standalone Christmas special.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to think of some more. Like I said, Ranma 1/2 has a wonderful Christmas special. There's the Christmas special on Keiron Kazakniki, which still needs an American release. Apparently, Gintama had a ton of Christmas-themed episodes. So there's a lot of them, but
Itadake my Santa.
Yeah, this author did do one called Itsudate My Santa. It's a 3-episode OVA. It is all the issues of Love Hina and Negima ratcheted up tenfold. Not for kids, but it's definitely Christmas themed, and I guess it's worth mention.
Love Hina I have a love-hate relationship with, but the Christmas one really does forward a plot when they do the standard 2 steps forward, 1 step back mentality with it. And, though today I have a harder time. I look at him as he's just a poor domestic abuse victim who keeps falling back into the old ways and keeps falling back in with his abusers.
Yes, a terribly codependent relationship,
That makes me a sad panda.
Maybe they'll be better this time. Maybe he won't hit me this. Maybe she won't hit me this time.
Yeah.
Well, that ain't gonna happen with it. All right. Well, let's see. Number 10.
Yes.
Now, this is one I heard about a few years back, and then got it, and then didn't watch it. So I did finally watch it recently, and I'm doing a review on it. Hopefully in the next few weeks, and that is the Hebrew Hammer. Now you think to yourself, what does this have to do with Christmas? See, Christmas has.
Doesn't it have evil Santas in it?
It does.
Ah.
So basically, it's about this guy who he's the epitome of what Jewishness is. And he becomes this Jewish private eye. Or Private Dick, as they like to joke around for. And Santa Claus has been dethroned by Andy Dick.
Oh dear God.
And Andy Dick has decided that he is going to get rid of Hanukkah because he wants Christmas to be the only holiday for that time of year.
Yes, and he gets rid of Hanukkah. That takes care of everything.
And then of course, so the Hebrew Hammer has to fight the evil Andy Dick and his minions with the help of people from people who are in the Kwanzaa League.
So does
Kwanzaa Liberation Front?
Does Adam Goldberg play the Hebrew Hammer?
Yes.
Oh God.
It could be seen as quite offensive.
Hey! Shut up!
If you have not have an open mind to it, but if you understand the comedy of films back in those days,
what do you mean back in those days? Isn't this like 01 or something like that?
It is 04. It's still back in those days. That's like 14 years ago.
Oh God, I feel old.
No! I was just out of college at that point. It really is very different. I mean, we're talking about just coming off the cuff of the Man Show ending.
Yeah.
So it could be considered offensive with a lot of ways that they portray stereotypes. But they don't do it in a mean way necessarily. It's just they're poking fun of everything. And to me, it was hilarious. It was very much enjoyable. And if you haven't checked out this movie, you should.
Okay.
I mean, Andy Dick does play a good dickish character.
Well, he's living up to his name, huh?
Yes.
So, speaking of things to make you feel old, this is a movie that came out...
number 9.
Yeah, number 9. Number 9 is a movie that came out, I think, 28 years ago now?
Yeah, been a while.
And I was old enough to remember it vaguely when it came out. But a film that is perhaps debatable, because I think a lot of people do think of this as a holiday movie, but a lot of people don't. So it's kind of on the line there.
I'm one of them.
I think it's a wonderful one. It's the Tim Burton film Edward Scissorhands, which, yes, I know people don't like Johnny Depp nowadays, and that's mostly his own fault. But this was back when he was really getting started in the movies, and it was one of Tim Burton's best films in terms of just basic filmmaking.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of his best films. But it's a film that takes place, I think, in California, but it takes place somewhere warm.
Yeah.
Very sunny. So it's very easy to forget that it takes place during the holiday season. It's very easy to forget that.
Yeah.
But in the great scene at the end where you get the actual ice sculpture that turns into snow, and everyone knows that scene, and it's wonderful, where you have a young, cute Winona Ryder dancing in the snow and all this stuff. It feels more wintry at that point, certainly. But it's definitely just a classic film. A wonderful score from Danny Elfman. You got the really impressive supporting cast, you know, Diane Weist and Alan Arkin, and you even have Vincent Price showing up as the... That's
a swan song.
Yeah, yeah. So, really good. And again, some people might debate whether it is a classic or whether it's not a classic, but I think there's enough debate that it works on this list.
Well, it's definitely a classic.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about
Holiday
Christmas classic, but it is definitely a classic, nevertheless. It's one that I don't mind watching any other time of the year, because to me, cold and icy, that's pretty much our director here's style.
Yeah. And actually, there were a couple of possible Tim Burton inclusions. I think that most people would probably either say Nightmare Before Christmas is a classic, or they would debate whether it's really a Christmas movie.
Well, you see, it's a Halloween and a
Yeah.
Christmas classic at the same time.
So it is truly a
It's both.
holiday movie.
It's a true holiday
Which
classic.
actually, I guess, given one of the others on our list, we should have included. But whatever, it's probably too mainstream for this.
It might have been a good. It might have been a good honorable mention, or one of the ones we could have played at the beginning, even.
Right.
Well, number 8. This
Ooh.
one is. There's no doubt that this one is a Christmas film, but it's one that most people instantly forgot pretty much after it aired.
I've never seen it.
And that you've never seen this
Nope.
classic. To me, it's the best classic of all. Grumpy Cat's worst Christmas ever.
Right.
As you can see, Grumpy Cat's like, oh ho 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 no, yes.
Yeah, humbug.
And you can see Grumpy Cat back there, and that cute little Grumpy Cat sitting there. And of course, this was a Lifetime movie, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Or was it? Yep, Lifetime.
Is it safe?
Yes, it's safe. It's very safe.
Is it safe?
And this is not a great movie. I'm not going to lie to you. It plays to a lot of just basic holiday tropes. Might as well be a Hallmark Christmas film. It's very cheesy like that. But the person who plays Grumpy Cat, Aubrey Plaza.
She voices Grumpy Cat?
Yes. And she
okay,
does
now I have to see it.
She does an excellent job with it. I had my doubts at first, but after hearing it, I was quite impressed. You know, before the whole debacle on the TV show, I actually would have thought Roseanne would have been the best part. And again, getting rid of recent issues back in the day when this came out, which is not that far back in the day, it's 4 years ago. But
I'll admit she embodies Grumpy like people do.
So, of course, if they used a male voice, Ed Asner.
I don't know. I was thinking Paul Giamatti, but Ed Asner too. Yeah.
But you know, as it is, very nice little holiday film. Young girl wishes for a friend on a magic coin, and can now talk to animals, and she must actually try and save the local pet store that Grumpy Cat resides in order to keep it from shutting down. These criminals are trying to rob it of this multi-million-dollar dog, and of course, Grumpy Cat, nobody wants to adopt her because, well, grumpy.
Wow.
So, you know, the girl has a friend, and the cat also makes a friend for the power of friendship and Christmassiness.
Whew. The power of Christmassiness just robbed me of a shift. Okay.
For tomorrow's event?
Yeah. Oh, here, hand me both of those, I guess, since we're coming.
Yeah, you got two in a row. So
next one up.
7. Lucky number 7.
Yes. I was going to do the number.
Oh, well.
Number 7. Or we need to do it appropriately. What's French for 7?
Set.
Set, right. It's been ages. Set. Okay, so we're actually going to go in a different direction here for a film that not only is directly themed about Christmas, but is actually a very, 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 very good movie and a very high quality movie that simply is not as well known as it should be.
It surely doesn't belong on this list.
Nah. And this is a film that was actually nominated for an Oscar and for a Golden Globe and for a BAFTA. And it is a foreign film called Joyeux Noël, or Merry Christmas. And it is a war film that takes place during World War I. A little known bit of, or a moderately well known bit of history, but I admit I was not familiar.
In my history class in high school.
I was not taught this in high school. I wish I had been. In 1918, I believe it was, there was a spontaneous armistice on the ground where German, French, and British soldiers called Christmas Eve truce on the ground. No, they just randomly did it. They said, it's Christmas, we're not going to fight. And what's more, they actually spent some time together. And this has been touched on occasionally in pop history. Honestly, the first time I think I ever heard of this was the Garth Brooks song Belleau Wood, which is a wonderful song. But this is a wonderful film. And Daniel Bruhl plays the German commander involved in this. The film also has Beno Furman, however you say it, Diane Kruger, Guillaume Canet, Gary Lewis. There's a few people involved. Yeah. It's a multilingual film, obviously. You got French, German, and English. Yeah. It was considered a foreign language nominee, but I don't know how that counts when a third of the language is English. Probably more than a third. But it's a really good film. It's actually one of the better war films I've ever seen, and one of the better Christmas films, and it's just not that well known. So, it definitely, I think...
The warmth in the film takes place a lot of that during that arms assist. I mean, my favorite part about that is they had that cat.
Sorry, 1914.
They had the cat that actually was apparently playing both sides to get food.
There was a cat. Oh, right. There's a cat.
And they each had a different name for it.
Yeah, that was fun.
But also, the real meat of the film, the real drama comes after that, when they basically have to go back in and just do the propaganda again.
Right.
I don't want to go on a rant here, but America's foreign policy makes about as much sense as Beowulf having sex with Robert Fulton at the First Battle of Antietam. I mean, when a neoconservative defenestrates, it's like Raskolnikov filibuster deoxymonohydroxynate.
The hell does rant mean?
To tell you, because when you're at war, you've got to dehumanize that other side.
Right.
There's a lot of dehumanization going on now, matter of fact. These people aren't real people. They're evil, they're terrorists, they're criminals, yada yada. And this is how you got people willing to kill their fellow man.
Yeah.
So when you actually see people as people, it becomes suddenly a lot harder to go back to shooting again. So there's a lot of good in the story. I really enjoyed my one watch through of it. I consequently have seen all 15 of the ones on this list.
What's on a cookie?
I've seen 11 of them, but whatever.
And I think all the special, what was it?
Honorable mentions?
All the honorable mentions, I think.
I don't think I've seen all of those.
Let's see. Yep, I have seen all of them.
I still need to see, there's a couple of them I haven't seen, but anyway.
I know you've seen Santa with Muscles.
You gave away one of the honorable mentions, man. I'm sure y'all were waiting with bated breath. Where is Santa with Muscles?
Number 1. All right.
Oh, great.
You can do the number.
One thing that's notable about this list is we actually had 6 that we both voted on. If you watch these videos, you know how we do this. That we do our picks according to how much points they get, and then we do the ones we both voted on at the top of the list. This is the first of those films. This is one I think I actually saw in theaters, and I've seen it at least once since then. I definitely enjoy this film, and it's a fairly ribald comedy, definitely a stoner comedy. That came out 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
Gosh,
and this is called The Night Before, and it stars Anthony Mackie in a fairly rare full-blown comedic role. Plays a young man who has become a football star. Seth Rogen, typically plays he usually either plays the really lovable lug or the asshole. And in this one, he plays the lovable lug. Yeah. This is, and they're both best buds. And his wife is played by Alison Pill, I believe, is very, very pregnant. And they're about to become parents. And so they're both kind of wondering if they need to keep doing these Christmases. Their buddy, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, lost his folks on Christmas Eve, I believe it was.
Yes.
And so he has hated Christmas ever since then. And they all get together every Christmas and do a big, wild, crazy night of fun and debauchery.
I have to watch that again this year.
And Rogan's wife actually hooks him up with a veritable pharmacopoeia of different things.
She got what she was asking for.
Exactly. And this says, from the guys that brought you This Is the End and Neighbors. It's in that same vein. I still haven't seen This Is the End, but this is definitely in the same vein as Neighbors. And it's definitely, you got some other Lizzie Kaplan's in there, Mindy Kaling, and Michael Shannon goes completely against type in probably the funniest role he will ever have as Mr. Green, who is their supplier, but who also is more than he seems at first. And they reveal at the end of what his role in the whole thing is. And it also features a extended cameo from Miley Cyrus that was actually pretty good. I like this. I really like this movie a lot. I think there's a good chance that in 5 or 10 years it would be ineligible for a list like this, but it's still new enough that it's still kind of finding its footing.
I don't know whether it'll become a classic or not.
Right.
There's another one on this list of similar vein, and
that's coming up shortly.
That's coming up shortly. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether that, because it's older, so I don't know whether that one has become a true classic yet either. But it is a... I actually, I don't know what it is about these films, the stoner comedies. Whereas some things have gotten a lot older for me over the years, like Harem series have gotten a lot older on me, and I don't feel like I've gotten older, and that's kind of left them to be not quite as interesting. It takes a little bit more than just the standard to pull my attention now. These still hold my attention, and I laugh just about as much. I've never seen Neighbors, but I have seen This Is the End. I like this one better. It is warm, it's fun, and it's just a nice general holiday film.
Anybody else feel like a little giggle?
Speaking of holidays, number 5.
And this is the one that we referenced when we said that sometimes multi-holiday ones might be a little interesting.
Yeah, this is definitely a holiday film, and that is Holiday Inn. We're going a little ways back for this one.
A little ways back.
We got Fred Astaire and
this
Bing
one
Crosby.
has had time to marinate in the public conscious.
You see, it's been overshadowed by another film, and we'll talk about that in a moment. This particular film is about some individuals, and they get a hold of a hotel, and they decide they're just going to have this hotel open and have these major things go on during the holidays. So they have these holiday-themed performances throughout. The film is most famous for something that people don't think it's famous for, and that is the song White Christmas, which won it an Academy Award. Now, again, people think, well, but there's a film called White Christmas, which is indeed a classic. But this is the film it debuted on. During, of course, the Christmas holiday section of the film.
No, they played it for Valentine's Day.
Oh, I thought it was Arbor Day.
There is a Valentine's Day song, isn't
yes,
there?
It's not my watch you're holding, it's my heart. It's not the note I sent you that you quickly burned. It's not the book I lent you that you never returned.
Is there an Arbor Day song? I can't remember.
I don't think there is an Arbor Day song.
They do have several. They have several holidays on here that don't usually get their own movie. This one is debatable to me whether it's not a classic, but I think because of the multi-holiday thing, not everyone associates it as much with Christmas, I think.
I really feel like White Christmas stole this one's thunder.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
And because of that, I feel like it doesn't get the respect it deserves, and this is why I feel like it deserves to be
But for
on
you
this
movie
list.
trivia buffs, if you got anyone that wants to insist that White Christmas won an Oscar for White Christmas, Now you know better.
I choose to believe what I was programmed to believe.
Let's show him that movie.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So number 4. We're getting into another fun one. Okay?
Something that is not exactly warm and fuzzy. Santa spreading holiday fear this year.
Oh, God.
This is a movie starring wrestler Goldberg. It's called Santa's Sleigh. And believe it or not, I actually enjoy this movie, although I would never have thought it would be this high on the list. But anyway,
yeah, number 4. Jeez.
Number 4, yes. But basically, the gist of it is Santa is actually a devil who was 1,000 years ago. Yeah. He made a bet with an angel and lost, and because of that, he has had to be nice and spread good tidings and good cheer for 1,000 years, but his sentence is up and he is ready for revenge.
Move, bitch! Get out of the way!
Suck it!
They show all these creepy pictures at the beginning of Santa, and if you think about it in the context, he does look like he's ready to punch somebody.
And among the multiple individuals in here, you've got is Douglas Smith the grandson of the angel. The angel is now an old man played by Robert Culp. Mm-hmm. His grandson's played by Douglas Smith. His grandson's girlfriend is the lovely Emily DeRavin from the series Lost. Mm-hmm. And you've also got Saul Rubinek, who I know from Frasier and from a number of left-of-the-middle independent films from the 90s. He, I believe, runs the local butcher shop. And then, of course, Goldberg is the wrestler. But what's really notable cast-wise is the opening sequence.
Makes it worth it.
Yes, I have to say, this is not exactly the holiday spirit speaking. Any film that manages to kill off Chris Kattan and Fran Drescher in the first 5 minutes is all right with me. Throw James Caan into the mix. I mean, that was a great opening sequence. It really was. And the part where Santa goes into a strip club and sanitizes the pole before using it as a weapon.
Yes.
There were some good moments. It's not a great film, but as horror films go, I enjoy this.
It knows what it is, and it runs with it very well. Yes. I was first introduced by one of our mutual friends to this film and said, you gotta see this. I rented this once and it was off the wall. So I searched and searched and searched because this is very out of print, unfortunately. And I found a copy so I could see it finally. Because back then, it was actually not as easy to catch stuff online as it is now. And because we're talking like 2007 maybe. And I must admit, it really did. It just struck a chord in me, and I was like, yeah, this is like the ultimate holiday film. I gotta watch it every year now.
Even better than Thanksgiving, right?
Yes. Number 3. All right, so we were talking about stoner comedies. Well, we've got another one for you. This one in a famous series, which I've got in a compilation disc here, which is A Very Harold and Kumar Christmas. And this one has some very fun posters. But it is the end of the Harold and Kumar trilogy that's out there. And it ended with a bang. It takes a lot of the stuff that was going on during the other movies and just takes it even further over the top, in my opinion. They had a full-out claymation scene.
Yes, just lovely. Now, but it bugs me, because I swear the first time I saw this, it had a great song that...
It's a very jolly day for you to die. I bet you wish you weren't so fucking high.
went with it.
Yes, it is.
And I've never seen that since. Every version I've seen did not have that.
I think this one has it on it.
Okay, because apparently there were different cuts of the film.
Yeah, they censored it out, a lot of it. This one was
unfortunately.
uncensored, and it also has another uncensored cut that was even less censored than what they had, which tells you something.
So basic gist of the series, you got these two stoner buddies. Harold is the more straight-laced one, and he's played by John Cho, and Cal Penn plays Kumar, who's less serious about things. And there's a running gag that is a living, breathing running gag that is Neil Patrick Harris. And he definitely takes center stage for much of the third ones. Literally. Yes.
Oh, yes.
You find out that when he was killed in the second one, he was kicked out of heaven for macking on all Jesus' women.
Which, of course, they even address the whole he's gay thing. Girlfriends. With that movie.
Yeah.
It was to me, it was a hilarious film. Of course, Kumar has not gotten his life together, and Harold has.
Mm-hmm.
And so Harold's kind of cut himself off from Kumar, but they end up getting together for one last holiday romp to find a Christmas tree after a slight issue.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of similarities in some ways to The Night Before, but
remind me if I'm remembering correctly, but isn't Harold's father-in-law or prospective father-in-law is Danny Trejo, right?
Yes. And that one was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, was it that one or The Night Before that had the baby that got really high? That one was...
no,
I think that was The Night Before.
Well, I know The Night Before had the one where Seth Rogen got really high and thought the baby was being evil and what have you, but...
I know that one, baby got hold of the ecstasy and then was, crawling on the walls and stuff like that. I can't remember which one of the two.
I think that was
I think that was The Night Before.
I was going to say, I think Harold and Kumar, but I could be wrong.
See, that's the thing, is that some of these have some similarities to them, so some of them do run together because it's a gag that could have appeared in both.
Right.
But we'll go ahead and I guess move to the great number
2.
Yep.
All right.
This one is a truly tasteful film.
Yes, and it's a really good one. And we have mentioned a few times on this channel, reference particularly our Criterion video or our Movies Galore discussion on Perfect Blue, or in general, most every other episode, we seem to bring up Perfect Blue.
Yep, Perfect Blue is our number 2.
But not Perfect Blue. Satoshi Kon has a very small but very excellent body of work, and mostly it's pretty dark. But he does have one major exception. It's a remake of a film called Three Godfathers, which I still need to see. I've never seen this one. But it's called Tokyo Godfathers, and it's about 3 very, very different people. A teenage runaway and a couple of older people who are also homeless during the holidays, and they come across a baby girl at a garbage dump on Christmas Eve. And they basically are trying to find out whose child it is, what's going on, what have you. And it's one of these these mismatched misfit kind of come closer together as all this happens, and kind of end up forming their own little family unit of sorts. And it's a really good movie. It's really interesting. I think I have only seen it once. It may be the one Con film I've seen the least. but I do need to revisit all of his stuff. But
yeah.
this is definitely an excellent one and very much worth watching, and definitely not well enough known to where most people would usually think of it. And it kind of does fit that whole gamut of not being just solely a Christmas, so much as more of like a Christmas to New Year's kind of holiday generally film. But yeah.
Well, so we've gone through quite a few.
Yeah.
But we do have our honorable mention section.
Yes.
For those of you who were paying attention for our last few top 15, we've been shaking it up a little bit. So we're going to show you some honorable mentions.
Laying next to you feels right. There's nothing more I'd rather do than hold you tight, look in your eyes and smile. For your love has pulled me close. And
now we each pick one of ours.
Mention one of them.
So each one of us has one that's in our honorable mentions that we felt probably could have or should have gotten into the top 15. I guess since you started with since you did the Tokyo Godfathers, I'll go ahead and lead off.
Sure.
For me, it was Santa Claus the movie. It has Dudley Moore. That's the one that, to me, the bigger role, even though, of course, the Santa Claus himself was more prominent, but as you can see, who has top billing. And Santa Claus
Take that, Santa.
Santa Claus is played by, gosh, what is his name? Produced by, was it? No, not Dudley Moore.
Is it David Huddleston?
I think it's David Huddleston, and it's also got John Lithgow in it. Which so it's got some amazing ones. I even have a clip from it, like this one.
Oh, that's fantastic! How do you turn your face so red so fast?
I was just going to say, yes.
And I play that one a lot at certain intervals whenever I talk about something being free. But it's it starts off with the story of Santa Claus, how he got to be where he was, how they address all the myths.
Well.
Yeah, Burgess Meredith plays one of the ancient elves.
So you've got the dude that plays the dude from Shrek that had the little dinky pint-sized despot. You've got the Big Lebowski, and you've got the Penguin, all in a movie about Santa Claus. That's kind of fun.
And it is fun, though. And to me, it is a heartwarming film with a good message for children. It's great that it has the Santa Claus mythos, and it's not the crappy ones that they have in, say, Santa Claus or Santa Claus versus the Martians.
Conquers the Martians.
Or Conquers the Martians, which I figure we would put on this list by saying those.
I considered that one.
I did too, but I had to pick ones that I liked. And the first one probably could have been a horror film. In the meantime, Dudley Moore's character is an elf, and he's trying his best to innovate and bring things to the future.
I forgot Elf. But that
would definitely be a classic at this point.
That's a classic.
So he ends up leaving the workshop and then gets hooked up with John Lithgow's character, who is a very sleazy toy maker. And he is going to end up ruining Christmas without the help of these two young children, a young homeless child and a young wealthy girl. Can they, with Santa, save the day? You should check this out. I don't think this is a classic because I used to think that this is a classic everybody watched, and then more and more people tell me, I never heard of this film before. And that is a shame. People need to know about this film.
I'm pretty sure he showed it to me for the first time, and I wasn't familiar with it beforehand. Incidentally, I'm going to make a substitution. I threw on In Bruges because it takes place during Christmas, but I just remembered Toys, and I cannot believe I forgot Toys. That one probably should have been a honorable mention because I don't think it's mainstream. But it has
definitely not mainstream.
It has that wonderful song closing of the year that's just awesome. But anyway, my one I'm going to talk about is a really nice family drama that I like it. I like it a lot. And, you know, you're going to have a lot of these family dramas that appeal to some people and don't appeal to others and don't really make it to classic status because of that.
Yeah.
But one that I've always liked a lot is The Family Stone. And it has a phenomenal cast. Diane Keaton, Rachel McAdams, Sarah Jessica Parker. Yes. You got Claire Danes, the Craig T. Nelson, Luke Wilson, etc., etc. Music by Michael Giacchino. He always does good music. You know, there's some good folks involved here. It's just basically a big family getting together for the holidays and all the stuff that ensues. And I think it's worth mentioning, you know, and it's worth looking into if you've never seen it.
It is a good movie. I just have a hard time with it when I watch it. It's very bittersweet.
Well, yeah.
And but still, I mean, it's about, you know, family conflict and how family can get together and thick and thin to resolve such conflict as it occurs. Well, you know, we're done with all of them except for one. You know what that means, right?
And this is one that, unfortunately, we're both in agreement that it should be a classic, but it's like that Dudley Moore one.
It got forgotten.
It got forgotten. We remembered it because we grew up with this one. But,
so, without further ado, number 1. All right. Well, when I was a child, during the 80s, a million years ago to some of you, I loved claymation because we all loved claymation because that was what was in the 80s. Almost everything was claymation back in those days.
I figured we should give the younger people a couple minutes to laugh. Okay.
And many of you are familiar with claymation these days because there are some films that still use techniques from that. Without these predecessors, you would not have films like Coraline today. Of course, I picked one that's pretty old too. But there are newer films that use that technique as well.
Well, anything from Laika. What was their most recent one?
Kubo. Kubo.
Kubo mixed a lot of things together. It was not straight
Did Kubo
claymation.
win the Oscar?
No, but it was up for a couple.
Yeah, it should have won.
But okay, go ahead.
Yeah. What was it up against? Darn. Oh well. Let's see. We're trying to test our metal. Any case, this is a claymation Christmas, starring the California Raisins.
Yeah.
For those of you who are not familiar with the California Raisins, well, you've missed out on an interesting part of history.
Yep.
California had a raisin surplus. They needed to get rid of those raisins. They need to sell them. So they came up with the California Raisins. They licensed a very important song. Heard it on the grapevine, which, you know, appropriate for raisins, right? And the California Raisins were born. They were everywhere. And you were the, you know, toys, games, everything, like California Raisins all over the place.
Was it Burger King that had the little figurines?
Either Burger King or McDonald's. I can't remember.
It was not McDonald's.
Maybe Hardee's?
It might have been Hardee's. I think it might have been Hardee's.
I have a few of them sitting around somewhere. But yeah, they had little figures that you could that you had. I don't have one has.
If you go on eBay, people are charging an obscene amount for these things now. It's crazy. But not just that. Of course, the show is hosted by two dinosaurs, Herb and what's the other one? And Herb and Rex. And Rex is the buttoned-up, straight-laced. Herb is a slush who gets more and more wasted as it goes on. And it's a series of vignettes that mostly musical in nature.
Yes.
There is the California Raisins. Was it? It was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And then there were a couple others, and the one that I always loved, partly because I loved the song, but the vignette was hilarious, was the Carol of the Bells vignette. That one was just awesome. But this is a classic film, and it's a criminal that it's largely been forgotten. And again, the creator, Will Vinton, passed very recently.
Yeah.
It was, 3 months ago, maybe?
So it's worthy to have it on the list just to mention him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it also comes with, if you find this version, and I don't think it's out of print. I actually still think this is in print.
I need to get it.
It comes with the Halloween and the Easter specials. I had not seen either one of them. I have now seen the Halloween. I still need to see the Easter one, which is why it's still sitting in my unwatched section. But I will be rewatching the Christmas one again this year. I never seem to remember it's Easter when it's Easter time. So maybe this year it will be the charm and I'll see it. But my favorite part, and the part I always remembered, and it was the one that made me want to get this, was the whole here we come a waffling.
Here we come a waffling along Lisa Green. Here we come a waffling, so fair to be seen. Love and joy come to you, and to you your waffle too.
Pardon me, but you're making a lyrical error in that fine old Christmas carol. Now, the key word, my good fellows, is wassailing, not waffling.
Well, what the heck's wassailing?
Because they kept trying to do during these segments in between the here we come a wassailing, and then all these things would come up and they would get it wrong each time. They wouldn't get the word wassail. They would be like waffling. And eventually at the end they of course get the song right. And you could tell where the commercial breaks were and all of that. But it really is a Christmas classic. It warms the heart and the soul. And with that, we bid you all a great many holidays of cheer, love, and fun.
And a Merry Christmas. Or a Happy Hanukkah. Or whatever else you're celebrating.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Kiss my ass. Kiss his ass. Kiss your ass. Happy Hanukkah.
So if you want to share your Christmas spirit with us, you could like, subscribe, and of course share our items. And of course leave us a comment. What are some Christmas classics for you that are off the beaten path?
Yeah, a lot of the ones that when we were looking it up, or I was looking it up,
because you really struggled with this list.
I struggled to come up with some, so I started looking at what other people had picked, and there are a lot of films set at Christmas.
Yes.
And I kind of wanted to confirm some of those. Again, In Bruges, I vaguely remembered that. One that a lot of people mentioned was LA Confidential. That's definitely not one you think of as a Christmas movie. So there's definitely some that could be really fun, off the beaten path ones. Not to mention, again, just the lesser known ones, or and I'll admit, I mean, my mom's a huge fan of the Hallmark stuff. She probably has 24 Christmas specials, and I've seen a couple of them. They're pretty good, but
any one of those could probably be on there. Not many of them have gotten that much recognition.
Right.
A friend of ours is trying to do a project, which is Brittany. She's doing a project where she's going to try and do 30 Hallmark films and talk about them on Facebook.
Oh my!
If you do the what was it? I can't remember what the well, she does. She's the author of Demon Blade. You could look her up that way under Dodson. But any case, I wish you all a great cheer, and we will see you on the next one.
Goodbye.